Hello, widowhood. Our guest today is Mr. Jesus Gonzales, and he's going to educate us on the money aspect of life. Because one thing we have all learned, even though someone has passed, the part that we have to handle as the remaining loved one, the widow, the widower, the children, there are always financial aspects of things that have to take place. And for some of us, this will be a conversation because you're a friend of someone that's passed and you're leaning in to say, what should I be aware of when I'm in that position? And some people may say, well, I'm past that. But there are some things that you may need to put in place that when your demise happens, that your loved ones already have things in place. So I am grateful for him being here, being part of this conversation, and to be able to share information with us.
Many people talk about the ups and downs of married life, but no one really prepares you for life after your spouse passes away. Welcome to Widowhood Real Talk with Tina, a safe place for widows, widowers, and their friends and family to talk about love and loss. Find comfort as you listen to honest conversations between Tina and invited guests who've experienced the loss of their forever partner. Share their stories of love, grief, and healing. You are not alone in this journey. Join today's episode and discover a wealth of resources and learn how to connect with others who are traveling the same path. This is Widowhood Real Talk with Tina.
Welcome. Thank you for having me. And thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name, obviously, like you said, my name is Jesus Gonzales, and I am financial coach to PFS Investments. So I help educate people on how money works. I teach people how to earn more money, how to save money, and how to get out of debt and become financially independent.
Okay. So how did you get into this line of work?
I was one day asked, I was approached by one of my coworkers. I work at the shipyard, so I received a friend request through Facebook, and one of the person that used to work at the shipyard invited me to her office to show me what does she do. And once I seen what she do, I was very interested in learning about finances myself and educating other people in finances.
So what did you realize you didn't know beforehand?
Oh wow! I realized whole lot of things. I realized that having some kind of income protection, or what we normally known as life insurance, is very important. I realized that our parents had taught me how to save money, but they didn't tell me the proper ways of saving money, which is we all understood that saving money in a bank was efficient, but I learned that it's not efficient enough because saving money in a bank is not going to help us grow our money as fast as we need it.
Okay. So you said, what is the name of the company that you work with again?
PFS Investment.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about that organization.
That organization was founded in 1977 by a man named Art Williams. And he founded it because when he was a teenager, he was living with his parents. His father had a whole life insurance, and when his father passed away, his mom thought that they was going to be taken care of. But come to find out that the insurance that he had was not sufficient to take care of them and to be able to supply them the lifestyle that they was living with. So ever since that, he got into a crusade to educate people on finances and show them the proper way of protecting their income and teaching people the real way how money works.
Okay. So you mentioned something very interesting there, that life insurance existed and the widow found out that that was not enough money to be able to sustain life. What should someone think about when they're considering life insurance?
Basically, life insurance should be looked at out a way of replacing somebody's income, a way to be able to pay off the debt that they have or they're going to leave to the loved ones. Be it if they buying a house, be able to pay the house, the mortgage, and of course the final expensive, death funeral. But life insurance is more than just the final expensive. It's a way to replace somebody's income and a way to be able to pay off debt. That way that person can be debt free.
So how do I find out how much life insurance I need?
The way we do that is called DIME. Basically, DIME stands for debt, income, mortgage, and education. So the way we do it is the first question we're going to ask is how much money, if a person is buying a house or person is paying for a house, how much money they will need to be able to pay off the house. Then we will ask about income replacement. Basically, if in a case of a marriage, husband and wife, if the husband passes away, how much money he will need to be able to replace his income. And what we do is find out how much money he needs, like let's say $4,000, $5,000 a month, $3,000 a month, and we find out the age of the youngest child, and we find out how much longer that child has to live is going to live before they could become grown-ups and leave the house. So we multiply that amount, that $4,000. First, let's say it's $4,000. We multiply that $4,000 by 12 because it's 12 months in a year, and then we multiply that. Let's say it's 10 more years before the child becomes adult. So we multiply that by 10, and that gives you the amount of income that that person needs to be able to live comfortably to replace that income. Then we find out about that, how much money that person will need to pay off all the debt. And then if that person wants to leave money for a child's education, that way the child can pay for education and don't have to find himself in another debt, which nowadays college debt is eating up America. A lot of Americans have to find multiple jobs just to be able to pay off college debt. And then the last thing we ask is how much they will need for the final expense and funeral expenses.
That
And
is a very good way of looking at everything. Thank you for that breakdown.
you're
What
welcome.
if I'm concerned or thinking I can't afford life insurance every month?
Then we will ask a person, how much money would they be able to compromise or to put aside for a financial program? And once we find out how much money that person is willing to commit to that program, then I would then find a life insurance policy that may not meet all their needs, but at least it will give them something to start off. And we have this thing that's called AIR, which is automatic increase of policy. That what it does is you start out with a small policy that increases gradually, and it doesn't and it will increase your premium, but it's so gradually that it's not affecting your finances. That way you can get what you can afford. At least you have something, and increases gradually to where it's not hurting your finances. Like for example, when I first started, I had a $50,000 policy, and I was paying $50 a month. But after 5 years, now my policy is worth 70,000, and all I'm paying is $64 a month, which is not that much.
Okay. Thank you. You also mentioned something about protecting income. What does that mean?
Protecting income, basically, as a person, when you have somebody depending on your income, basically that person cannot produce an income of themselves. Let's say even if you're a single parent, but your kids are too young to produce income, if you happen to pass away, how did that dependent replace your income? In a case of spouses, if it's husband and wife and they both bringing in an income to buy for the house, if one of them passes away, you're not just losing that person, you're losing that income also. So life insurance will kick in to replace that income.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, it becomes a very complicated scenario when you are one dealing with the loss of a significant other and then the idea of the income deficit. Have you ever spoken with people where the conversation of their own mortality and the need for life insurance becomes very complicated? And if so, how have some of those conversations gone with for you?
A lot of times when I had talked to people like that, and once, like I won't, most of the time when I talk to people, they don't realize the importance of income because they look at life insurance as something that I don't need because it's not an expense. But once I point out the idea of, well, if you have loved ones that cannot produce an income, and by you not being on earth no more is going to produce a hardship on them, then 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 it hit like a light bulb goes off in their mind. Say, okay, you know what, you are right. I should do something. If I if I say I love my loved ones that much, then I should have something in place to replace my income. Even though I know that they're gonna miss me, but at least I know for sure they being taken care of even after I'm gone.
Okay. What are some of what are some of the hurdles that you've experienced with people in just establishing life insurance?
Some of it is that they believe that they cannot afford it. Some of them believe that they don't need it, and some of it is that basically those are the two main ones, that I cannot afford it, or I cannot, or I don't need it, or it's not something that important.
Okay. Now, other items besides life insurance, what other ways should people look as far as what they should do?
People should have what is called a emergency fund,
And
which
what
is
is that?
an emergency fund is an investment on account where you have 3 to 6 months of money just in case life happens, which we know a lot of times life happens. A car could break down. You might need repairs on your home. So if without that kind of account, without that emergency fund, you are basically gotta go to a bank or to a lending place to get to borrow money. But that's yeah, that might solve the problem for the time being. But now you inquire the debt. But if you have that emergency fund, you have an account set up to where you have money 3 to 6 months of money that you can use. That something happens, you don't have to inquire the debt. You have your own money. You use it as you need it, and then you continue to replace it and grow.
How do I find out what I need for 3 or 6 months? How do I go about determining that?
It all's based on how much money, basically your income, and when what we will do really to start out with anybody, we do what is called a financial need analysis, which is basically in-depth look at your finances. We look at how much you bring in, your assets, your liabilities, and we put it all in the computer, and it will show you whether you need life insurance, whether you need some kind of investment, how much you need, and it will show you if you have debt. It will show you a quicker way to get out of debt.
Oh, okay. So you provide a service in helping someone how to reduce their debt.
Yes.
Okay. Is that piecemeal as far as your services, or is that all inclusive package?
It's all inclusive package. Basically, once a person becomes a client, then the FNA or the financial need analysis is complimentary.
How do I become a client?
By inquiring, basically, you schedule an appointment with us, which takes 25 to 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes, depending on your questions. From there, we will sit down and fill out a financial need analysis questionnaire. And then I will take that and put that into my computer. And then we have set up another appointment so I can get back with you and show you basically the whole financial need analysis breakdown. And from there, we will continue to ask financial questions to see what kind of financial program do you need.
Okay. Have you dealt with many people that have survived the loss of a loved one?
So far, God has blessed me to where I have clients that so far nobody has had a death in their family yet, but
Okay.
I know that that day is coming.
And what are the people that you know that day is coming? What are some things that you're trying to help them in the idea of being prepared for that?
Well, with that, what I do, I normally, like all my clients, I reach out to them every so often, like either between every 6 months or every year, and I ask them the question to see are they still in the correct path or they need some adjustments.
Okay. If I were to come to you, I'm ready to do something, but my spouse isn't. What advice would you give to us as far as looking as far as what our long-term financial needs are? How does that work?
I will talk to both of you guys and ask the spouse that is having doubts. I will continue asking questions to see why is that spouse not on board, and see what is it that I can help them understand better.
Okay. You talked about also the 3 to 6 months of income. When you started this process, did you have 3 to 6 months of income in reserves?
Before PFS, no, I didn't. I
Okay.
started one as soon as once I understood the needs for it.
How did you go from no savings to start being able to create that? Because you have your regular everyday expenses, you have your life, and 3 to 6 months of income seems like a large amount of money to have to put aside. How does one go from not having it to get to there? And then also, how long did it take you to accomplish that?
Well, what you do is once we create that financial need analysis, it's gonna show people that a lot of times some of the monies that they are spending is just frivolous spending. So now it's changing people's mindset and thinking, okay, needs versus wants, and thinking about, okay, well, I can do without this, I can do without that, and start cutting back. Or let's say like cable is a good example. Most people have Cox cable, but nowadays we know that we don't even need Cox cable no more because now they have the Fire Stick, they have other instruments that people can use to watch TV. So now you can say, well, let me get rid of that Cox cable bill that I don't need, get this Fire Stick, and I can just pay for whatever service I'm going to use at the time. And if I don't want that service, I can cut back.
Okay. And I'll just say not just so much as Cox, but cable in general, because
Yes.
our podcast is all over the world and people have
Gotcha.
different
Yes.
cable services. So you start identifying where to cut back and what to do. How long did it take you to accomplish to get to the 3 month or 6 month income goal?
Well, it all depends on
No,
once
no,
you
you personally, when you
personally,
started this.
it didn't take me that long because once I just made the decision, then it was just to find the right investment product or that is going to provide me, it's going to increase my money, it's going to help grow my money to the point
Oh,
where
so you're saying not just also cutting back, but that, so let's say I'm looking for real numbers. So for you, when you first started doing this, how much money did you start taking out of your regular money and start putting aside to accomplish this on a monthly, weekly, or whatever basis?
I started putting $50 a month into
Okay.
investment, which is giving me, which I'm getting 10% of interest rate.
Okay, so now, so so now it's not just the idea of taking money out of my regular spending, but also having a financial instrument that's going to help that money grow at an accelerated rate instead
Exactly.
of just being in a savings account.
Exactly. Because when we put our money in a bank on a savings account, and I just looked it up not too recently, the average interest rate of return that banks will give to Americans is 0.25 interest rate, which anybody that understands about interest rate, that is not really a snail really will walk faster than that. So the important is finding an investment that's getting right. See, right now we know the inflation is about 9% inflation. So if you were to put your money in anything that's going to give you less than 9%, you are dollar shorts. So in order to break even, you have to have at least 9% interest rate of return or more. If you want to stay ahead, you have at least 10, 12% interest rate of return.
What is the risk factor when I'm looking at investing, understanding that when I put my money in a bank or a credit union, FDIC has an assurance as far as the loss of my funds? What are the risk factors involved when I'm looking at investing outside of something that's controlled by a savings account, even though it's a lower interest rate of return?
Well, just like the banks have the FDIC, investments have the SDIC, which is the securities investing. It's the same, it's the equivalence of the FDIC. Plus, the risk factor is all dependent on that person. When I sit down with a person, we don't have the one size fit all for because everybody's investments risk factors are different. So when I sit down with a person that's interested in investment, I find out what do they need the money for, what are their risk tolerance. Basically, I ask them whether they are aggressive, medium, or conservative, and I also ask them how fast would they want that money to be available to them. And then from there, I find a product that best matches that individual.
Okay. So what I want to, if you can explain a little bit more, and so the SPIC, how does that, I don't think that covers against market loss. So when you're talking about someone's risk level, if I understand you correctly, you're saying, okay, person A, understanding when you put your money in the financial market, the
Mm.
concept of loss exists because you're dealing with the ups and downs of the stock market.
Well,
So,
with us, we don't just do just regular. We don't. What we use is mutual funds. So now
okay,
mutual funds is different than the regular stock market because mutual funds is a pool
right.
of different investments. So, and where, let's say, for instance, one of our mutual funds might have Coca-Cola, might have Pepsi, might have different products. So let's say Coca-Cola market is going down, but Pepsi is going up. So now Pepsi will catch whatever's going down. So there might be some loss, but because it's a mutual fund and it's going to be a mutual funds, then the percentage of loss is less than just depending on just one security or one investment.
Okay, so thank you for speaking about that. So you're not working with people in a single type of investment, more of a mutual fund.
Mutual.
And the concept of help me make sure we're explaining what a mutual, because there may be some people that have never heard of that. So a mutual fund is a financial instrument that has a conglomerate of different smaller investments inside of it under a particular title. So as you were speaking about the one there could possibly be a mutual fund under soft drinks or medical support, and then all the different medical companies and the things that they sell are underneath there are healthcare. So they take a group of like type items and then create an analysis of those and provide those for people to see. So, and do you provide 3, 5, 10-year analysis on the different mutual funds that are available, and how is that displayed or available?
We provide like 10 years all the way
Okay.
up to 10 years analysis. And like, but then again, mutual funds also, because when it comes to in the world of securities, so you have equity, which is equity is a stock. Basically, if you're a stockholder, then you own a percentage of that company. But you have bonds. When you have bonds, you become the lender to that company. So with a bond, whenever you buy a bond from a company, that means that that company is borrowing your money and they're going to pay you back in X amount of times plus interest. So when you get a mutual fund that has equity and bonds all mixed in, so bonds has an inverse relationship with interest rates. So
And
when
talk about that a little bit more, just
yeah,
for some clarity, what a bond
yeah.
is for people.
So a bond basically, let's say like I'm with PFS. So let's say PFS Investments offer me a bond. Basically, they are borrowing X, Y, and Z. Some let's say they're borrowing $1,000 or $100,000, and they're gonna promise me that in 10 years they're gonna pay me back the $1,000 or $100,000 plus interest and whatever interest we agree to. So then the way the bond works when it comes to cost prices, bonds has in what is called an inverse relationship with, and so whenever interest rates are going up, bonds price goes down. Whenever interest rates are going down, bonds prices goes up.
Now, a lot of times people hear bonds and they only think of that in relation to the federal government. Are you speaking of bonds as it relates to a private company?
But you got private company bonds, you got federal bonds, and you got municipal bonds too.
Okay. And how are those different?
Yeah, they're different. And right now, when it comes to bonds, the safest bonds there are the government bonds and municipal bonds, because the
Okay.
government don't like to default. So they
That is a good thing. So are your mutual funds, are there some with bonds in them? How does that correlate to the idea of the mutual funds as you brought that in?
yes, we have mutual funds that are nothing but equity only. We have bonds that are equity and bonds. So and we have just and then we have ones that are mostly equity and less bonds, and then we have some that are most bonds and less equity. So it all depends on that. Basically, it all depends on that person risk factor and how
Okay.
comfortable they are with risk.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So if I've never been into investments, I've literally have only saved money at home. I've not even really used a bank besides just to get my paycheck and to pay my bills. What are some things that I should start researching to educate myself before our first conversation?
Well, just research because there's a right now there's a website for those people that really don't know much about investments. It's called Investopedia, and what it does once you log into it, it will give you $100,000 of fake money, not real money, and you can go and do different investment, and it has all the lingo, all the vocabulary that we use in investments. You can find it up there, so you can read on that, and it gives you a better understanding of different investments.
Oh, that is really neat. Say that. What is it? And we'll make sure that we have that in the notes of the blog.
It's called Investopedia.
Okay. So it's sort of a mock investment account
Yes,
to be able to pick some stocks or mutual funds that you think that you would be interested in and then watch the highs and lows of that. That's a very good way to sort of start in that investment arena and not just throw your own money into the process and sort of get a
exactly.
feel for it.
And anybody can use it. And like I said, it has a place where you can click on it, and it has says education, and all the lingo, all the vocabulary, and all the words that people use in investments are right there, and that makes it clear.
Wow, that is very helpful. Thank you.
You're
What have
welcome.
been some things you've seen people like? Okay, so we hear about, oh, this person's an investor, and then you hear about people being ripped off because someone took their funds and invested them in something that wasn't honest. How does one keep themselves from have that happening to them?
By researching that company and that person, and not just just like on my podcast, I had a gentleman that he deals with bitcoins. So he said that if anybody will ever tell you that they're going to send you some money, but in order for them to send you some money, you have to send them money first, then don't do it, because if it doesn't sound truth in real life, then it's definitely not. So for the investments, you just have to do research and see what a company is growing or not. A lot of times, and just kind of like for me, in my case, if somebody wanted to check my credentials, you can go to FINRA broker check, and you put my name, and the very first Jesus Gonzalez with, and you see a little bit, you can click on that, and it shows you all my credentials.
And what are your credentials?
My credentials, you can check it. Right now, it shows you right now all the classes, all the tests that I passed, my license, and if I have any disclosures. And right now, I have no disclosures.
Very good. So you talked about you mentioned your podcast. Talk about that a little bit more and what topics are covered and where it's found.
My podcast name is called Rogue Finances and Life, and it's found on YouTube and also on Spotify. And most of my topics is on finances. And I also talk about scripture and biblical. Like I have one of my interviews is with another pastor. We talk about finances, but from a biblical perspective.
Okay. Okay. So what made you start doing the podcast and how long have you been doing it?
I did it for about a year. I'm thinking about different ways of generating, just putting myself out there. But I didn't want to do it to the point where I was just talking about myself. I wanted to basically like you doing, like introduce all the business owners and all the people that are expert in their own topic.
Okay. That is good. So now I've listened to this podcast and I'm a widow. And let's say I have $70,000. My home is already paid off and my children are adults and I already am retired. I have my own income and I'm thinking I'm good with my $70,000 in the bank. I have my own income. I'm going to retire. I don't think this is for me. I don't think this would benefit me. What would you say to me if we were having a conversation?
I will ask you, because even though you're going to retire, right? Let's say you still have 10, 15, 20 years left to live in. Would that $70,000, will you be able to spread that across 10 to 15 years, maybe even 20 years of living, or you might have to need some extra income?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm retired from my own job because I work. So I have a retirement income that's going to take care of my quality of life. The $70,000 is what's remaining from the life insurance after paying off my late husband's funeral. So now I have this 70,000 that doesn't change my life one way or another, but it's money that I have
Okay. Now, have you taken in consideration inflation, cost of living, and interest rates?
now.
Because
Okay.
those things, if we know right now, things are a lot more expensive than 10 years ago. So
Okay.
10 years from now, things are going to cost even more. So would that
Mm,
$70,000 with your income right now would be able to match the inflation, cost of living, and interest rates?
okay. Very good. Thank you. So, how have your family been part of this process or educating people that you know, friends?
Well, my wife and I, we both are in the same business, so
Okay.
we both do it together.
How is that working with your wife?
Oh, it works a lot better, and it works really good because we both understand that if I have to go out, if I have to go and meet another person, it's all business related, and we speak with each other. We keep the conversation to the point where we know, what's going on,
Okay.
and we do have to live a scheduled life because of it. Like a lot of times, we cannot just get up and do something because we have to make sure that either one of us don't have an appointment, or we just tell each other, "Look, don't schedule nothing, no appointments during this time, because this we're gonna use this for family time."
Okay. That is good. So it sounds as if that one phone call that somebody, and how long ago did you get introduced? Did you say to PFS again?
Going on 5 years.
5 years. Oh, you mentioned that you started putting $50 away, but how long did it take you to get to that 3 month of income reserve?
For me, it took me about a year or so.
Okay. How did it feel to have that put
But
aside?
it feels great to be able to know that we don't have to go to a financial institution to become and indebted to them, so we can go ahead and we can go ahead and take out our own business, from our own self.
It removes some stress that
Yes.
exists, knowing that, like you said, when life happens, a washing machine breaks, the dishwasher, all those different things happen to be able to have something put aside. Was there a mind shift that had to change? Not just the physical part of changing money. And if so, how did you work through that, you and your family?
Well, when I first started, I was by myself. I met my wife afterwards, but it's still, even with her, we have a mind shift. There is a mind shift because like I said, you gotta prioritize your needs and your wants. And then even within your needs, it's like, well, do I need all these channels, or all I might just need just the one channel because all these other channels, all this other stuff is not necessary. Do I need, X, Y, and Z? Even when you're thinking about eating or anything, is this is really what I need, or I just need this much and I can live without?
So what if somebody feels like their quality of life is going to be reduced because now they're trying to save for this 3 or 6 months worth of income revenue?
That's a good question. We will have to assure them that it might be, well, it all depends on what they're looking at for their quality of life. And then and sometimes you have to know that sometimes you might have to make a little sacrifices in order to achieve the ultimate goal.
That is very true. The need to sacrifice and realize what that goal looks like because everyone's financial goal is different. So the ability to identify what that is, it sounds like you give a lot of personalized service, not something very generic. So how I may look at what my goals are. are different than someone else. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, yeah. Everything we do is we understand that every individual is has different view life in a different way, and your financial needs are totally different than mine, and so on, so on. So we cannot. We basically, when I sit down with a person, I'm finding out. I'm trying to find out who that person is financially, and I'm trying to find out products that matches that person because not every person have and all my clients they all have different needs.
Okay. Where what when you mention clients, what states are you able to work with? And is PFS a national company? How does one connect?
PFS is all over North America, Canada, Puerto Rico, and territories. Right now, I'm licensed in the state of Virginia when it comes to investments, but when it comes to life insurance, Virginia and Florida.
Okay. And how would one get in contact with you if they wanted to discuss your services?
They can call me on my phone, which is 948-202-0593, and through the link that I just provided you.
Okay, we'll put those down in the notes. Oh, I know, I wanted to ask you. So you spoke about investments, savings accounts, and having that 3 to 6 months reserve. Are there other different things that a person could expect to speak about when you're helping with their finances? And do you speak about how Social Security is part of that process?
We teach people how Social Security could eventually not be there and do not depend on Social Security because right now Social Security eventually is it's going to be a point where Social Security will no longer be there. And yes, we do offer for those that are looking for like a smart home security. They can get great discounts to us.
Oh, okay.
We are partnered up with Vivint
Okay.
for senior citizens. We do help them with senior health care. We do offer legal. We are partnered up with Legal Shield.
Okay. And what
And
is Legal Shield
Legal
and
Shield
how could a person benefit from them?
Legal Shield is a company that they offer for a small membership of like $20 or $30 a month. They have plenty of lawyers. They have multiple lawyers people can use in case they ever need a lawyer for any kind of legal issue. They also help you write a will, which a lot of people don't understand. Most people think that wills are just for property and material stuff, but people do not understand the importance of having a will, even for your kids.
Speak about that a little bit, the idea of that instrument having a will, how that benefits you.
When in a case, if you in the case of somebody have kids, young kids, and they happen to pass away, and that before they pass away, in their mind, they might have, I want them to go to auntie so and so. I want them to go with my brother, But without a will, without being in written, kids would end up in the system, and then the family members will have to go to probate court and until the judge finally say, okay, the kids are going with so and so. But before that, they are being battled for. But if you have a will now, because of the will, the kids can go to that person that you have written to for your kids to go to, and they won't have to go to a battle.
Now, thank you. Speak a little bit more about what probate is.
Probate court is where it's the court where family members of people go and dispute different areas, like for it could be any kind of material possessions, estates, or for this case, kids.
Thank you. So the idea of probate, if I understand you correctly, is where you have to go publicly and be challenged for decisions that were not identified and laid out legally before your passing. So you also spoke about material. So if someone passes and it's not written out, someone else could challenge a decision that you didn't make identified. So if you pass and you have several children, and you have no remaining spouse, then your means between adult children could be challenged and caused between them if you're having a minor child, as you're speaking about, and determining who would care for that minor child in your absence. If you don't have a will and have that laid out, it can be very complicated upon your demise.
Yes.
Wills are very important. Thank you for bringing that up, because that also goes back to the idea that someone may feel like, I don't have enough money to get a lawyer to have a will written. But if they were using a service such as what you recommended, it's a very small cost per month that would provide them the documentation they need to make sure that their affairs were in place. Have
Yeah.
you dealt with somebody that, well, no, you said you haven't dealt with a customer that's passed. So the idea of dealing with somebody that's had to challenge probate and what that looks like is not an area you've experienced thus
No,
far.
not yet, but I have experience. I have legal shield, and I needed advice on divorce from my prior spouse. And all I had to do was call up the number. They put me with a lawyer, asked the question that I need, and they gave me the legal advice that I needed in order to pursue the divorce.
Okay, and a phone call like that could have been very costly. So,
Oh yeah, most also I had a car that was total, and I went to talk to a lawyer, and the lawyer, he told me, look, man, I'm gonna give you some nuggets on what to do, but I'm telling you not to retain me because the cost to pay me off will be more than what your car's cost is. So yeah, lawyers can be super expensive. So if you don't have the money, but now you have legal shield, now the cost will be cut dramatically because all of this is a phone call. And even if you have to return a lawyer, the cost is going to be a lot less than going to a lawyer and stuff, because the lawyer's fees, yes,
so we
definitely.
could contact you to also get legal shield services also.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your time. Are there some other points or anything else you feel like we need to cover or discuss before we wrap up today?
Well, other than that, we also help people with car and house insurance. Basically, we are like our Power America or PFS investment is like the Amazon when it comes to financial services.
Okay, that's a pretty good analogy. Thank you.
You're
All
welcome.
right. So you'll, at the end of these show notes, you'll be able to provide your email address, your website link, how people can get in contact with you, some information about the Legal Shield. And also, I think it would be pretty cool if you can provide that dime, some verbiage about that, just that educational piece.
Yes,
That'll be very helpful for people, so then that we can share and they can just connect with you directly.
yes, I can sure do that.
Okay, thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you for spending another episode with Widowhood Real Talk. If you found the contents of today helpful, share the episode to anyone you know who may need it. Subscribe to the show and tune into Widowhood Real Talk each week. Then visit widowhood-realtalkwithtina.org to join the community and access additional resources. Remember, you are not alone in this journey.